The current trend in modern fighter aircraft is away from older multiple screen cockpit arrangements into a single panoramic display taking up the majority of the instrument panel. This has the advantage of added flexibility to the arrangement, size and type of pages that can be shown on the screen. These new screens are able to display large format information such as maps spanning the entire screen rather than being limited to a single smaller MFD. These displays are also touch enabled, which reduces the number of required controls in the cockpit. An issue that has existed within the cockpit multifunction displays in Star Citizen ships since their introduction is how the player interacts with the relatively small cockpit screens using the mouse. This can be partly attributed to the small size of the screens and partly to the size of the virtual buttons on them. Star Citizen's cockpits vary in their MFD layout, but the pages displayed in them are all common between ships. Many of the current MFD pages repeat information over and over, wasting space and muddling each page's purpose. Many pages contain large amounts of information on each, causing readouts and controls to become cramped, or forces the user to scroll through long lists. Differing size and shape of the MFDs between manufacturer ships cause issues with pages being designed for one size being cramped into a smaller one. Smaller MFDs also make the virtual buttons even more difficult to interact with. To solve the issues with interaction, I propose the following fixes. That the current fixed menu system be scrapped in favour of a dynamic virtual button system. That the information screens are broken into modes and sub-modes to reduce the amount of information on each to only the required and no more. And the possibility of implementing panoramic displays to allow the user to decide what size and where they see each page, as well as making use of the full cockpit instrument area. A dynamic button system would be created via virtual buttons. The virtual buttons would start with a single menu button located in one corner of each display. The location and size of the button would remain constant. The menu button, when pressed, would open out into page buttons for the available modes, along with a full screen or windowed button which is contextual, allowing some pages to span the entire panoramic screen or return to a single pane. Selecting a page button will either open that page immediately or open sub-menu buttons. Once the final selection has been made, the buttons would retract, disappearing into the main menu button, again ensuring that the maximum screen space is saved for displaying information. The user should have to click no more than 3 times to open any page from the main menu. All buttons must be labelled using acronyms that are intuitive, containing 4 characters plus or minus 1 to ensure that they remain understandable at a glance. MFD modes could be broken into navigation, containing the star map, and a horizontal situation indicator or HSI for when you're in atmosphere, a threat page, sensors containing radar or scanner, ship overview page, communications page, systems containing coolers, power plant, weapons, shields, propulsion and maintenance. Buttons to suit specific ship functions would be added as required. An overview page would be created with all the essential information on a single page to ensure that information required for combat and regular operation is quickly and easily visible. The overview page would show weapons ammunition level, ordnance remaining such as missiles, weapon heat levels, weapon damage status, shield controls, power allocation controls, hull damage status, and thruster and engine status. Any degraded component function information that will affect the performance of the ship would be highlighted. Clicking any component shown on the ship outline on the overview page would open a system page for that component. Each system page holds all the information and controls for that system to prevent players having to dig through multiple levels of MFDs or see the same controls over and over. Any background images on the system pages would be minimal, preferably only outlines, and be of a neutral colour like grey to allow the important information shown on them to stand out. The locations of weapons, components, etc. shown on the ship outline should be made up of heat gauges rather than complex 3D diagrams. When a component is damaged to the point of no longer operating, the item would be X'd out with a red X. Icons should intuitively show the type of weapon or component, ballistic, energy, ordnance, coolers, etc. A small status gauge beside each component on the system page would show power level, wear level and health level. This could be zoomed into a larger view when the radial menu is activated. Wherever gauges are used to show full to empty, minimum to maximum, every effort should be made to ensure they are vertical over horizontal. Gauges showing performance such as engine output should be a circular gauge to minimise the space used, as well as being, again, intuitive. Lists that require scrolling should be avoided. Colours should be kept to a minimum but used intelligently without unnecessary gradients and shading. Interacting with the systems and components on each page would be by way of a radial selection rose that appears when the player clicks on or clicks and holds onto the item's icon. The radial selection rose would allow for actions such as changing power states, item information, and overclocking, etc. If a complex 3D image of the item is to be shown, the information window is where I would display it. Deeper information about the system, such as wear, damage, and power, should only be shown on the systems page or the maintenance page. The new Mustang Cockpit display shows an example of an in-game panoramic display, with the potential to be a truly great cockpit interface for the user. Giving all ships a similar panoramic display would assist with displaying things like a star map on a screen instead of using the hologlobe radar, which has always been problematic. Having a top-down view of the star map in the 2D layout would make interaction easier, and having a panoramic display would allow the map to be shown across the entire screen. The screen could be divided into panes, with pages that could be moved around between them via a click and drag and would snap to one of the predetermined panes, but would also be made full screen for when you want the extra real estate. Logical use of the ship display area, intelligently sized and intuitive interaction systems would make having MFDs in our ships more immersive and satisfying experience. Without this, MFDs become more of a frustration and a chore to use. The impending improvements shown on the roadmap will hopefully move MFD interaction towards a satisfying and away from frustrating. Good hunting, pilots. For more information on how spacecraft systems work in Star Citizen, please refer to the spacecraft flight manuals found on the RSI website. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching.